Okay, I think we're going live. Hello, hello, hello. We are live. Beautiful. Let me pull this down so we can get started. Uh, it's the new year, 2026, and I've been in business 15 years, will be 16 years in April. And as I was contemplating, how do I want to help people? One of the things I remembered was that a person that came to work with me was actually watching my daily Facebook lives for 5 months before they placed a phone call to me and we started working together. So I never knew this person was watching these Facebook lives. I don't know, who's watching, but you're watching. And so what I've committed to do, and hold me to my commitment if you want me to, is do a 15-minute live every day at 8:15, which means no sleeping in anymore. So even if I'm in my pajamas, I got to do this thing and share tools, tips, things to help you get your day started, things to power up your day. So welcome to day one of this. I thought I would do two things today. First, share a little bit about how pressure-free living got started and then why it works. So back in 2010, my two eldest sons asked me if I would share my mental toughness tips with their baseball team. I thought that was kind of interesting because most of the time the boys didn't want me anywhere near the dugout, right? I had coached them in track, so they knew my coaching style, and so did several of the boys. But I thought it was rather novel. I kind of laughed a little, and they said, my eldest said, "No, no, no, I'm serious. Okay, really want you to do this." And what he was talking about was the things that I have used for years as a performer, as a symphonic performer, as a conductor, to take the stage really confidently. And so he was very interested in that because I shared some of that with them. And he thought if the whole team learned that they could be really powerful. So I took the ideas to the head coaches. They loved it. Head coach hired me to be his own coach. Like it all got started. And started working with a lot of professionals especially in the financial sector at first. But as I was working with that baseball team, and digging into more research about the stress response, I realized it wasn't enough to just be calm right before the event. So right before the game, right before the concert, right before the meeting with my professionals I was working with. Um, that's not enough because of how the stress response actually works. As I dug into that, I came to understand that once we release these stress hormones, which is the thing that happens when we go into the stress response, it's why we feel all the things we feel, that it takes hours before we're back to normal. Now, you can feel better even a few minutes after you've triggered the stress response, but what's happening under the hood? Like what's really going on? Stress is called the silent killer for a reason, and that's because it works on every one of our bodily processes. Those stress hormones affect every bit of us, how we see, how we hear, how we come off to other people. Are we tense? Are we relaxed? It's really fascinating. At least it's fascinating for me to dig into all the things that these hormones do. So when I have a client come to me, if they have any sort of chronic disease, mental or physical disease, I dig in and I look to see, okay, so how are the stress hormones exactly affecting this? There are two different floods, so catecholamines, glucocorticoids. I want to know so that I can help my client as much as possible understand the science behind pressure free. And that gets into why this works. Um, as I started to develop my method and working with that team, starting to work with clients, I thought I've got to have a very simple way to help them understand how to interrupt that stress response. That is the key. So the things that you often will, the information or advice you will get from people about trying to reduce stress is, oh, you need to change your diet, you need to exercise more, you need to breathe, you need to meditate. Boy, you need to slow down and take time off because, your blood pressure's off the charts. These are the kinds of advice we will get. Most of the clients I work with are high achievers. Like they don't want to do less, they actually want to do more. They are weekend warriors and they're off doing this and they're They want more. They want to juice life. They want to do more. And so to be told you need to slow down is often anxiety causing. So what I came to understand is that you don't need to slow down or take time off. All you really need to do is notice what is triggering you, what is causing you to release these hormones, and start interrupting that. Now, some of us, and I'm going to raise my hand here and say, hello, my name is Elle, and I'm an adrenaline addict. I was addicted to the way adrenaline would make me feel. I thought it was a good thing. And there are some coaches out there that try to pump you all up with adrenaline. But here's the deal. There are side effects. And when you're under the influence of this first flood of hormones, catecholamines, adrenaline is one of the hormones, you can feel very powerful, but it's short-lived. So that's why people go on this roller coaster of emotions throughout their day. Like things are going great, and then all of a sudden we're down in the dumps. It's like back and forth, back and forth. And so digging into that, looking at that, I said, okay, I need a very simple method. I love things to be in 3 steps. My clients know this because even my goal setting formulas, it's 3 simple steps, like 3 steps. So with pressure free, I use a lot of alliteration. With pressure free, it's targets, triggers, tools. And back at 15, almost 16 years ago, people hardly ever use that word trigger. So I kind of wish I could find a new word, but targets, triggers, tools. Targets, what are you aiming for? When I think about that baseball team, when my sons came to me, the team was very talented, but if they were down a few runs, they were not a comeback team. And my son clearly remembers this one game where they were down, I don't know, like 11 runs, and they came back and won 13 to 11 or something like that, 15 to 13. They won by 2 runs. It was amazing because they just weren't that comeback team, but understanding the stress response and not triggering those hormones when they were losing allowed their bodies and minds to stay optimal so they could really come back from that. It was really incredible to see. I remember the game. My son tells the story so much better than I do, but it was really, really fun to see that take place. So 3 simple steps. What are your targets? In that case, for that baseball team, they wanted to get to the playoffs. They wanted to get to postseason. So what is something that's important for you to change when you really think about it? It's like we start this year, we put out resolutions. What are some of your resolutions? Do you already feel like, I don't know if I can do that? So what are some of your resolutions? Um, do you need to get healthier? Is that your target? And the more specific you can get, the better. But if you can even just say, just jot down a few things like, this is important to me this year. Do you need a promotion at work? Do you need more income coming in? Is there something going on in one of your relationships with your parent, your partner, your child, work associates? Are there little things that you wish you could correct or change? So those are what I refer to as targets. Sometimes clients will come to me and they go, Elle, I just need to feel happier. Like I can't keep living this way. And so maybe it's feeling happier. Maybe it's feeling more fulfilled. So what are some of your targets? When I started coaching, by the way, I didn't even have this step, but I quickly realized that if you have a couple of targets, that's like the fuel to do the next 2 steps because you can always come back and reframe and say, but you know what? This is what I want. This is what I desire. This is what I'm aiming for. And when you shoot a bow and arrow, you've got to aim beyond the target, right? So I help people start that initial want. What is that? And then we need to aim beyond it in order to hit it. So if you can take a moment to think about that too, like if this is how much money you'd like to make now, maybe you want a promotion or you have your own business, you want things to churn up a little more, like what is the next step of that? And get clear about what that number is too, so you can aim beyond. So targets first. Second step, triggers. Triggers are anything that could possibly cause you to trigger the stress response. Now, initially, I thought that anxiety and anger, those are two we typically talk about. If you get overly angry, you've triggered the stress response. And you might break things. There are rage rooms. One of my clients asked me, what do you think about rage rooms? Actually, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan because if you develop a subconscious habit of reacting when you get angry, that's going to create this habit inside of you. And what's to prevent you from hurting another human or breaking something you never did intentionally want to break? And it could be metaphoric as well. So not actually physical, but breaking something, losing your job or because your anger can't be controlled. Um, I know people who've gone to jail because their anger couldn't be controlled. So anger, anxiety, of course. So anytime you feel nervous or worried, you'll probably trigger these hormones. One that I came to figure out for myself and has been like life-saving for so many of my clients is annoyance. So maybe you're not full-blown angry, but maybe you get annoyed about little things. I would get annoyed if things are out of place in the house. I'm not a like super neat freak. Obviously, I'm looking at my desk right now. But I prefer that things be clean and neat. Like I just like a lot of space. Like I have a lot of floor space up here in my loft. The living room has a lot of floor space. I need that kind of space. Clutter definitely annoys me. So when I figured out that annoyance can trigger the stress response, that was a game changer, both for me and my clients. Third step, and there are so many more emotions, and we'll get into that as we do these 15-minute daily explorations. Um, but I want to give you the third step, which are tools. Tools and the 10-second solution. So from a resting heart rate, if you're in a resting heart rate, you have about 10 seconds before the two mechanisms of your brain will kick off the stress response. So if we can interrupt and not have the stress response release those hormones, you literally save yourself. You save your brain, you save your body, you save every cell of your body from having to go through dealing with two different floods of stress hormones. And what I'm talking about is an overabundance of these stress hormones. These hormones are going to release naturally for certain things, but it's when we kick off too much of it that we've gone into the stress response. Does that make sense? So, tools. I've come up with over 50 tools, and that's because every one of my clients is so unique. Um, the things that trigger us, our experiences, our traumas of the past, our childhoods, many of our deep-seated patterns of habits of reaction are generational. Like if this person cried over spilt milk, then this one did, and this one did, and this one did. And now if somebody spills something in the kitchen, you overreact. It's just because it's a pattern that you absorbed when you were a child. We imitate. We imitate faces. If somebody gets hurt, people get a tight face. We imitate that. So understanding and starting to figure out what are those triggers and then what can I do to interrupt it, that is the key to pressure-free living, that 10-second solution. So you don't need to meditate for 3 minutes. You can, and you can do it because you want to, but you don't need to if stress is the issue. If stress is the issue, what you really need to do is understand the stress response and not release it to begin with. That's the difference maker here at Pressure Free Living. I remember when my writing coach, he found me on LinkedIn and he said, I checked out your website and your people get results. Your clients get results. Like, how are you doing that? And we had this lengthy discussion about how, and it's because this works. Like, this works. It's based on the science of your body, the biology of your body, and the biology of how these hormones affect how you feel. So that's day one for you here. When we start again tomorrow at 8:15, if you're watching this live and you have questions, but you don't want to like drop something, I'm going to have my phone with me. If you don't want to drop it like in a comment or anything, and you want to come into my live Zoom room, it's www, you have to put the three W's, .zoomwithL.com. You can come into my Zoom room, and when I finish up here, I'll open it up for a few moments of questions and answers, so we can go a little deeper for you. Let's see if I can continue this for 300. No, it's not 365 days because today is January 5th. It's 361 days. That is a commitment that I'm making, and we'll just see how it goes. Things might change, and I'm open to however this might change. But this gives you a little idea of what pressure-free living is and how it works. And I wish you, of course, a fabulous pressure-free day.